All right, everybody, welcome to episode 158 of the Fantasy Timeline, a proud member of the Dynasty Addicts Podcast Network. I'm Josh at Real Fantasy TL. I'm with the co-host with the most, Drew at DR underscore PRA. Drew, how you doing, man?
I am doing well. Glad to be here.
Glad to be here too, man. We both were able to enjoy our Thanksgivings. Uh, Friends, family, and big wins for both our teams. Huge comeback by the Bills there. I thought they were done for, and Josh Allen looked at the clock and said, you guys gave me just enough time to win this thing." And he went out there and he did. I mean, you would have thought teams would have learned after last year. Maybe we take a couple knees in that situation and wait for it to get down to 4 seconds so we can kick it and call it a day. But
man, I thought as soon as we missed that extra point, I knew that was going to come back and get us. And man, I was at a friend's house, and thank goodness that was the early game. Otherwise, I'd have been miserable if we had lost that. Got that out of the way so I could be social for the rest of the afternoon. Yeah, it would have been rough.
Yeah, I mean, I was eating Thanksgiving dinner during the first half of that Dallas game, and let's just say that the food didn't taste as good. Dessert tasted a lot better in the second half, but the main event, the main meal there, did not. But we talked about the good that happened to us. Why don't we talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly of Week 12? So, Drew, do you want to start us off? You want me to start us off? How do you want to do this?
I think I went first last week, so why don't you do the honors this week?
All right. I got a guy, Drew. That's not true. We had a guy. We talked about this guy. We told you, don't be surprised if this dude goes off for 303. Drew's nodding his head. He knows
who was that.
He knows vaguely familiar. About. We're talking about the franchise quarterback of the New York Jets, Mike White. 22 for 28. 315 yards and 3 touchdowns. A 149.3 quarterback rating.
It's like all of Zach Wilson's ratings for the year added up.
Yes, pretty much. Pretty much. And it's funny. So let's take a New York Jets journey through the 2022 season. Zach Wilson gets hurt in the preseason. Wasn't ready to start the season. They bring out Joe Flacco. Joe Flacco puts a lot of points on the board, throws the ball a ton, but can't win. Then we get Zach Wilson back. Zach Wilson, along with good defense and a good run game, can win, but he can't put a lot of points on the board. And then last week, we get the best of both worlds coming together. We get a lot of points on the board, and we get a win. And I get it. People are going to say, but it's the Bears. All right, let's remember something here. The Bears have kind of started putting it together on offense. Yes, Justin Fields didn't play, so obviously that's a big blow there. But Mike White did what we told you he was going to do. I don't know if we have ever been more accurate on a player projection, even if just for 1 week, than we were with Mike White. And listen, if you started him in a super flex because you had injuries or you had buys or you had whatever, you're feeling good about it. And listen, the schedule gets a little rough. Minnesota, at Minnesota, at Buffalo. So 2 away games against two of the teams with the best record in the league. But guess what? We've seen Minnesota get points put on them, have we not? A couple weeks ago, Dallas put 40 on them.
We did.
Buffalo has not looked as good on defense with all of their injuries as they did the first month of the season.
Yep.
So am I saying Mike White is going to be a top 5 quarterback for those 2 weeks? Absolutely not. Not what I'm saying here. But listen, you're in a pinch, you're in a bind. You got a lot worse options than Mike White. And by the way, welcome to the 2022 season, Elijah Moore. We missed you. You were late to the party. You were real late to the party. We almost started cleaning up, but we're glad you came. We're glad we got to see you in the end zone. And this is what the New York Jets hope Zach Wilson would be.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you heard the post-game comments from Jets head coach Robert Saleh. He said Mike White makes the easy things look easy. And you hear that and you go, that's kind of a dumb comment. But think about all the screens you watch from Zach Wilson where he overthrows a guy on a screen, which is supposed to be like the easiest throw in football. And he's overthrowing guys. He's throwing it at their feet. Mike White played within the offense. He's hitting the screens. He's hitting guys down the field when he needs to. And, I mean, is there a scenario, even if he stinks against Minnesota and Buffalo, is there a scenario where Zach Wilson comes back? Barring injury, obviously. But, like, I don't think Mike White can play so bad that they go, I think we got to bring Zach back out there. I mean,
yeah, I think the first scenario that comes to mind, probably the only scenario that comes to mind for me if I'm sitting in the head coach's seat is, maybe Mike White is bad for the next 4 or 5 weeks. So maybe I bring Zach Wilson back for week 17 and 18, see if he's learned his lesson. Has he put it together? Is he ready to try to show that he can compete for that spot? Or will he just still be terrible and solidify my choice to go after a quarterback in the draft?
So here's the thing. I did break down the next 2 weeks, which is a little bit of a murderer's row. But since you stretched it out to 4 weeks, here's who they play after Minnesota and Buffalo. Home against Detroit, home against Jacksonville. I mean, if he just plays average in those games, I don't see a way that that Zach Wilson comes back. I don't. It seems like Robert Saleh was really disappointed in the way Zach Wilson handled that. And, I mean, barring it would have to be he would have to play so much worse than Zach Wilson did for Zach Wilson to get back out there. I think not only are you looking at the rest of season starter, but, they could win like 3 of their next 6 and be in the playoffs. And then you got Mike White, playoff starting quarterback. So,
and if he does what Taylor Heineke did, which was just lay it all on the field in the playoffs,
just an upset of the Buffalo Bills in the first round. I had to do it, Drew.
Okay.
But Drew, hit me. What was your good for week 12?
Man, I was tempted to go with one of the guys tied to Mike White this week and see Garrett Wilson, who, man, what an athlete. The run and catch for the touchdown, absolutely froze the DB, made his move, and took it to the house. But you want to talk about impacting your team for the win. Nothing bigger than an 86-yard walk-off touchdown run by Josh Jacobs in overtime. Another guy that we talked about a little bit over the summer leading up, and I wish I had been more aggressive in sending offers out for him. And if you did, good on you. If you trade him away earlier this season, we get it. But what a performance by Josh Jacobs. Saw a great tweet out there. A couple of folks mentioning, he's definitely making it a questionable decision at the very best to not pick up that 5th-year option at this point with his productivity. So I hope the guy gets paid after this year. I hope he gets, whether it's here with the Raiders and they pay up to keep him, or somebody else decides to pay that man for the next few years. All heart there. That was, especially considering his story coming into the NFL, that was pretty impressive to watch for 200, almost 300 all-purpose yards, 203 all-purpose yards.
303.
Unreal performance.
And, I want to give credit where credit's due. We did it with Mike White. I want to give you credit. During the offseason, you talked about Josh Jacobs. You talked about a guy, hey, this is a guy you might want to get on your team. You might want to make offers. I've always been a little bit more hesitant about Josh Jacobs, and Josh Jacobs shattered that. Somebody's going to pay him a lot of money. And he's earned every penny of it this year. He is the reason probably why they have at least 2 of their wins. I'd have to go back through the rest of the game logs, but but I mean, this is a team that's bad. Yes, Josh Jacobs has something to play for because obviously he's showing off not only for his own team, but for the other 31 teams in the league. And I mean, think about the teams that are going to be looking for a running back to kind of put them over the top. And money's going to be a concern, but let's face it, we see teams magically alter the cap all the time. I mean, could you imagine Josh Jacobs on your Buffalo Bills, on the Kansas City Chiefs? I mean, let's talk, and people are going to go, but the salary cap. And I'm like, listen, it's amazing how, I mean, Allen Robinson got like $15 million a year last year from the Rams, and the Rams had like 32 cents in salary cap, but somehow they were able to pay him $15 million. Now, not saying that worked out for the Rams, but they found a way to make the money work. Imagine Josh Jacobs getting a tan in Miami with the way that team is playing.
Don't like that.
Oh yeah, I know you don't like it, but I mean, I think there's going to be quite a few teams that are going to look to make Josh Jacobs their guy after the season he's putting on this year. So I love that pick, and I want to give you your credit for kind of singing his praises during the offseason and
appreciate that.
Watching him flourish now. So we talked a lot of good in the first 15 minutes. Got to get into the bad, though. And this bad hit me hard. This guy is on my SFB playoff team. And luckily, he did not cost me a spot in the next round. I made it even with
Congratulations.
This guy. Thank you. Even with this guy not getting it done, I'm talking about Alvin Kamara, New Orleans Saints running back. You brought up a running back for your good, so I'm going to counter you with a running back for my bad. 7 attempts for 13 yards. That's not good. But you go, but Josh, he catches the ball. 6 receptions for 37 yards.
Mm.
So if you play in a PPR league, yeah, you got your 6 points from receptions. And that was really where you did the bulk of your damage, was those 6 points in receptions. I mean, you just barely got into double digits in a PPR. Like, think about that from Alvin Kamara. New Orleans, that the whole team was bad. Actually, let me not say that. The New Orleans defense was good. The New Orleans offense, everybody on that offense was bad. Listen, Tampa Bay is coming to town, and Tampa Bay hasn't been the Tampa Bay of old. Hopefully, it's a get right game for Alvin Kamara. And then they have the dreaded Week 14 bye, which I wouldn't be shocked if over the next 5 years these late buys start getting abolished when the fantasy community really starts making a stink about them. They only started a year or two ago, right?
Yeah, probably two seasons ago or so.
Yeah, when we started getting these really late buys, and I think that the fantasy community, which makes the league a lot of money, they're gonna say, hey, you keep it to week 13, please. We start playoffs in a lot of leagues in week 14, and we don't want to deal with that. So, but yeah, I mean, the good thing is that the last 3 weeks, it's a pretty good playoff schedule. Home against Atlanta, at Cleveland, and then week 17 at Philadelphia. That's not good, but those other two are. So hopefully Alvin Kamara, he has a little bit of a get right game against Tampa. You get a bye, and then you get 2 really nice games when you get into playoff mode there. All right, Drew, hit us up. Who was your bad for week 12?
I see Bill in here in the chat claiming his with Damian Pierce, which has been a rough couple of weeks. Hard to argue with that. I was looking at a couple of guys on a couple of teams that have really been struggling. I just can't get away from this graphic of the Ravens and how many games have they led in the fourth quarter or in the second half this year and still lost. And just what a letdown from what they thought they could be. I know they got some injuries going on. We thought maybe J.K. Dobbins would be back and relieve some of the pressure there. But I know a lot of folks leaning on Mark Andrews this week, which for him, a down week, right? 50 yards. He got bailed out with a couple of freebie points from a 2-point conversion. But compared to what you're taking him as probably the tight end one this year, especially if it's a season-long league, a bit of a letdown there. But just Ravens in general, I'm not sure what's going on there. I haven't watched enough of their games to see where they're falling apart in the last 8 to 12 minutes or so. It seems like, was it 4 or 5 times they've had not just a 2 or 3 point lead, but some of these games a double-digit lead going into the fourth quarter or in the fourth quarter and losing it. So they need to get right there, and we'll see what happens over the next few weeks if they can right the ship and make a playoff push.
Yeah. Ravens are a weird team this year because we always look at their defense, right? We always go, man, this is a good defensive team. They're going to run the ball, and then Lamar can kind of eat you up either, whether it's throwing it in the air or doing it on the ground. And this year, that defense has just kind of been it's been gross, especially at the end of games. I mean, we saw that massive Miami comeback earlier in the season where Tua threw 4 touchdowns in the fourth quarter or something I mean, it was ridiculous.
It's unreal.
We've seen, we see them kind of fall apart against Jacksonville this past week. It's really weird. They're having to rely more on their offense. And the problem is that a lot of their guys on their offense are hurt. J.K. Dobbins has been in and out this whole season. Gus Edwards has been in and out most of this season. So you're relying on, Kenyon Drake. Mark Andrews missed a game. Rashad Bateman has been out for most of the season. I mean, so unfortunately, this is not a good year to have to rely more on your offense because your defense is not picking up the slack. I don't know if you saw the end of the Ravens Jaguars game, but I mean, they just let Trevor Lawrence just move it down the field. There was no resistance whatsoever. I mean, they were letting guys get out of bounds. They were letting guys just like it was crazy. And I think the ease at which Trevor Lawrence moved the ball gave Doug Peterson the confidence to go for 2 at the end of it to win it. I think he was like, listen, if we lose, we lose. But I just saw Trevor Lawrence just carve this team up in, I think there was like a minute 20 or something left. And why am I not going to go to him after I just saw him literally set a defense on fire? I mean, and I think if it was a struggle and maybe, a DB slipped and a guy got open and Trevor Lawrence hit him and they scored a touchdown that way, maybe Doug Peterson's not as confident going for 2. But I mean, you hear the term a lot. It's a little cliched, but I think it does work well in this situation. Surgical. He was surgical on that last drive. And, shout out to Zay Jones too, because he was a man, especially on that last drive. But yeah, I love that one, man. That is a great one. Here's a funny thing as we're talking about the Ravens right now. Josh Oliver, huh? It seems like whenever Mark Andrews doesn't have a good game, they have a tight end in the wings that is ready to
never the same one.
Score a bunch of points. It was Isaiah Likely the week that Mark Andrews missed, and then this week Mark Andrews was there, and it was still Josh Oliver. So I just wanted to give him a shout out too, because he took all of Mark Andrews' points. All right. I'm gonna hit you guys with an ugly here. It was a guy that we really started liking a lot, and that is Donovan Peoples-Jones. He had been like a nice little player that you could sneak into a flex spot, especially if you're hitting multiple flexes, 2 or 3 flex spots. I was like, Donovan Peoples-Jones, all right, this will be a good one. And in the Jacoby Brissett going away party, he ends up with 2 receptions for 16 yards. It'll be interesting to see what happens when Deshaun Watson gets out there. Luckily, if you're going to come back after not playing football for almost 2 years, your first game is against the Houston Texans. That's always a nice welcome back to the league. But yeah, Donovan Peoples-Jones, man, it was ugly for him. I know a lot of people that started him in flex spots because they had been starting him in flex spots and had been doing all right with that. I mean, last week he went 5 for 61 and a touchdown. The week before that, he went 5 for 99. The week before that, he went 4 for 81. So like he's been putting up good flex-worthy numbers. Not, I'm not here saying he was a top 10 wide receiver and he killed you. But Drew, you and I, we play in a lot of leagues with multiple flexes, and
Yep.
DPJ is perfect for that role. And if you had him in that role last week, it didn't end up well for you. So, Drew, who is your ugly for week 12?
I feel like more weeks than not when I watch this guy play, I start to feel embarrassed for him at moments, especially when the broadcast starts with talking about where he went in the first round in his draft 14 years ago, MVP. They have to slide in, almost won a Super Bowl, and now to see Matt Ryan with the Colts this past week. Not a terrible stat line, but if you watch the game, he just did not demand any respect beyond 5 yards out. So Pittsburgh was able to really smother their receivers. And again, you look at the number of times that he has been compromising possession with 10 interceptions. He's fumbled 4 times. He had 1 of each this game. It's just hard to watch at times. You watch Jonathan Taylor running, fighting for extra yards. Special teams comes in, gets a great second half kickoff, which kind of, you thought maybe that'll spark some things. But when they started deep in their territory with the final possession, you knew it was time to turn the TV off. He was not going to be marching down the field 90 yards in 2 minutes like he used to with Julio Jones, early days with Roddy White. Just couldn't get the ball beyond 5 yards with any velocity. So yeah, just an ugly night. He's had some up and down games, couple that he's come through big, but I think week in and week out, we draft him in one of our leagues as our QB3, thinking he'd be a spot starter for, bye weeks and stuff. Maybe with the Colts, he'd be in a better position here. And it's just been tough to watch him especially when you see some of the other guys. I mean, we're seeing it with Rodgers getting hurt and, some of his play declining. We've been spoiled by Brady for the last 7 years, predicting the fall off. And maybe we're there this year. Maybe we're getting to that, but so much different when you're watching it happen to a 38-year-old guy who's been an MVP when you got Brady out here at 45. That's still, you still have that fear in your heart, I think, when Brady has the ball with 2 minutes and a couple timeouts, even if it's 90 yards to go. So yeah, just tough to watch Matt Ryan on Monday night.
And that's a great ugly. And let me pile onto your ugly a little bit more. Somehow, and I'm not sure, I think it can start this week. Maybe it can start next week. But somehow the NFL didn't flex Dallas, Indianapolis out of the Sunday night game. And don't get me wrong, I get it. Dallas is playing well. They're a couple games back, but they're still fighting for the NFC East lead, a possible number 1 seed. They still got to jump with a couple teams. I get that, but they're only 2 games back. Anything can happen. But what's the draw to have Indianapolis out there? Now I say all this, and Indianapolis ends up winning this game, and it's everyone can laugh at me later.
Yeah, okay.
But just on paper, what does Indianapolis bring to the table that you go, we should get these guys on prime time? I don't know, and I'm gonna look it up while I talk, but I don't know what the NFL schedule looks like for this coming week, like games that could possibly get moved. And I'm looking through it right now, and I can maybe see why. I'm looking because you can only flex 1 o'clock games to the Sunday night game. Okay. And actually, you know what? There are a couple ones that maybe if I had said this week 1, you would have laughed. But like Jets Vikings. We just saw Mike White do his thing. We just saw the Vikings in a get right game on Thursday, that late Thanksgiving game. They had a get right game. What about Titans Eagles?
Mhm.
Are you telling me you don't want to see Jalen Hurts and AJ Brown? And guess what? On the other side, they got some dude named King Henry. I'm just saying, Derrick Henry. Like there are some guys that you go, okay, I can watch this. I can get into this. And here's another one, maybe a little bit more of an under the radar one, but Commanders Giants. They're both. I mean,
You'd said
Commanders
that week one, man. Whew.
right? That you would have rather have flexed Commanders Giants for Cowboys Colts. Yeah, tell me about it. But I mean, like I said, well, trust me, I'll say all this and the Colts will win by 2 touchdowns or something like that. But you made great reference to a couple of other older quarterbacks. Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers. And have they been prime? No, not at all. But we saw Tom Brady eat a loss last week against the Browns, which was crazy. But we saw a flash of old Tom Brady in Germany against Seattle.
Mm-hmm.
We saw a flash of old Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay versus Dallas. Like we've seen, they've at least flashed. Matt Ryan has not flashed. Not even a little bit. Maybe a play here or a play there, but to say he's flashed for an entire game, he hasn't done it. And it's going to be fun to see what quarterback they shouldn't trade for that they trade for in 2023. Because they've done it 2 years in a row so far. They got themselves Carson Wentz. And probably the best part is that they probably thought they were leaving that flaming bag of dog poop on the Commanders' front steps, and the Commanders used the fire extinguisher, put that out, swept it off the front steps, and is now sitting on the bench. And all those additional draft picks that they probably these are going to be high draft picks. Taylor Heineke is just moving those picks further and further down the board. So yeah, it'll be fun to see who they try to trade for next year if they still have the same general manager in place, which will be interesting. They already fired the head coach. Usually the GM is next to go, but that is the good, the bad, and the ugly. So, Drew, I got a trade offer today, actually. And actually, while I'm bringing this trade up, I want to do a public service announcement to all the people that are in leagues with me. Stop trying to get me to trade you Garrett Wilson. It ain't happening. I told you everyone, that dude was the best wide receiver in the draft. I told all of you. You can look it up. I said maybe Jameson Williams if he was healthy, but I told you. And I'm not gonna lie, I might have like 98% exposure on Garrett Wilson. And I'm never the type of dude that has that much exposure on a guy, but I loved them. And so stop. Like, unless you're gonna give me the farm, you ain't getting them. I've been getting these deals. Hey, let me trade you like 3 bad players for Garrett Wilson. And I'm like, no. Even when Zach Wilson was just holding him down, I was like, Garrett Wilson is my dude. Like, stop. But I got this deal. Now, this is a 14-team Superflex league. I want to just look up. So I'm currently in 8th in this league. And I'm not going to lie to you. I think my team is overperforming. But the second place team in this league has made me an offer. So I would send one Jamal Williams, and I would get back one Cooper Rush and a 2023 second round pick. So this is probably going to be late. Like I said, this team is currently second in the league. I don't know how to feel about this trade. Obviously, Cooper Rush doesn't mean much to me. I don't have Dak Prescott in this league, so it's not even like I'm quote unquote handcuffing a quarterback. But is a late second, probably a really late second, worth me giving up Jamal Williams? I just feel like he's worth more right now.
He probably is.
He didn't have the best week against Buffalo. I mean, he did have the touchdown.
Yeah.
But it wasn't his finest hour. But
what's your team looking like next year? You got guys coming off injury. You got good draft picks.
So right now I'm kind of like, I don't have any additional draft picks. I'm kind of like middle of the road. I have J.K. Dobbins and Javonte on the IR right now.
Okay.
So
you might get one of them back next year. Hopefully Javonte doesn't take as long as Dobbins does or doesn't have the setbacks.
Yeah. So, but I feel like he's worth a little bit more.
I mean, if he switched out Cooper Rush for a third to go with that second.
Yeah, because to me, Cooper Rush is like, it is worthless, you know. And not that, I mean, listen, Cowboys fan here. I was very happy. He is the reason why we are talking about playoffs instead of talking about a top 10 pick. But, you know, again, I'm waiting for, I have to wait for another injury for him to have any value.
Yeah. Yeah. I would be okay, I think, in that taking a second and a third. And I think you plan to use, I mean, the second, it could very well, I think there's just as much chance of it being a top 25 pick as it is being, you know, that means, you know, that team comes in 11th, you know, maybe they make it to the semis, lose in the semis, something like that. So there's still, you know, with this draft class, a second is going to be, I think, a good piece to have, especially as the hype builds in January, February, March, April. So I think you could take that and, you know, leverage that into a better pick or another player that maybe somebody next year is undervaluing because they want the shiny new. And then third is a throw in to get a deal done somewhere. So I would be okay with that. Cause again, if you're not telling me that you're going to be a strong contender next year, and then Jamal Williams could be good depth, I'm fine moving on from running back sooner than later, typically. So yeah, I don't like it as it is. I feel like you should be able to do better. And, you know, if you start doing what we recommend for everybody else, which is go through the standings and start clicking on teams starting from 1st to 5th, see who needs a little depth or who has an iffy running back. You know, does somebody have a Najee Harris? Does somebody just lose, you know, Travis Etienne for an unforeseen amount of time or something? And I think you got some more leverage there. And if they offer, there's a reason they're offering. So yeah, I would totally be fine going back and countering with something a little bit more. And that some of that just comes down to what they have or who they have.
All right. So I got a question for you here. This team actually has 2 seconds. Now, I'm not going to get crazy and ask for 2 seconds. The other second that they have is currently top 4.
Okay.
Do I just switch it out? Don't even ask for the third and just go, give me the higher second?
Yep.
Yeah. I like that idea more. See, I'm glad we talked this out. going to do that right now as we speak. We'll see what happens. This person, I'm not going to name names. Not that I'm saying anything uh, bad about him or her, but very intelligent when it comes to Dynasty. So we'll see what happens. But all right, we just did it. We just sent the counter for the higher second. We'll see what happens if I get anything during the
Yeah. Honestly, there's
during
part
the
of me that would
show.
have said maybe you just maybe even just drop Mike White off of there, or not Mike White, Cooper Rush off of there, and just do
Yeah,
that.
I did.
Okay.
I just asked for that second.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah, you see,
I don't need
that's why we work well together.
I don't need Cooper Rush. I got me some T-Law on that team.
That's awesome.
All right, here's a good one from Super Squash 33. I'm looking to trade for a wide receiver. I want to trade Dalvin or Monty. Who should I trade for? This is a great question. I feel like depending on which one you actually trade, will there would be different ranges
Mhm.
of wide receivers. Do you agree with me or disagree with me on that?
Yeah, I'd love a little bit more context here if we're looking at a redraft or season-long league versus Dynasty as well. I don't know that there's a huge difference there, but yeah, I would say there's probably a tier drop or lift depending on which one you go with.
So let's start with Dalvin, since I think he would fetch more. You agree with me on that?
I would think so.
All right. So who are some wide receivers that you would have in mind if you were going to trade Dalvin? And let's just say that this is a dynasty league
Okay.
until Super Squash gets back to us.
Okay.
Is there kind of a oh, here you go. He just sent another one.
Ooh, okay.
Which could should I trade Dalvin Cook and Christian Watson for CD and Thielen?
I wouldn't. CD is tempting. I think if you're trying to make a push for this year, how do you give up Dalvin Cook and the one guy that Aaron Rodgers seems to like right now?
I love CD, but my problem is Thielen.
Yeah.
What is
if you change Thielen out for Jamal Williams?
Oh, let's
talking.
go. Let's go. Let me get some Jamal in my life. I might be trading him away, so let me get some more back to me. Yeah, Thielen is just too much of a drop off.
Yeah,
for me to really to want to have him on my team. I mean, he's probably gonna have a game or two. Don't get me wrong. I mean, he had a game last week, so I get it. But like, he's been like, I'm just looking at like some of the point totals, and it's like, okay, like he kind of started. I think he had like a good week 3 and week 4, but then like week 5 was garbage. Week 6 was fine. Week 8 was fine. Week 9, not so great. Week 10, not so great. Week 11, not so great. And then he comes back in week 12. And listen, he's got the Jets next week. We can say all we want about the Jets. They got a good defense. They have like a playoff worthy defense.
Yeah.
Detroit, okay, he might get some. Indianapolis, he might get some. How about Monty and Watson for Kirk? So
I think Monty for Kirk is fair for me.
yeah, and I'm assuming here we're talking about Christian Kirk since we've been talking about wide receivers. Yeah, I do the Monty for Kirk thing.
But keep Watson. Can you give us, Super Squash, since you're responding, can you give us just a little bit of like either scoring settings or league settings here, or are there unique starting requirements? Because again, depending on some of these players you're talking about, I would think that in a lot of leagues you could just use Dalvin and Monty together. Or are you short wide receivers for, is it like a start 3 wide receiver league or something? You don't have a third that you like. PPR 2 wide receiver, 1 flex. So you've got, who are your other wide receivers outside of Christian Watson, I guess?
And I actually want to bring something up here too while we see if Super Squash will get back to us.
Watson is a starter, 2 running backs. Okay. So Amari Cooper and DJ Moore, Christian Watson. Yeah, I think I am looking for a clear upgrade at the wide receiver, which DJ Moore, I'd move him now after it looks like he got Sam Darnold got him a touchdown. So he got to his annual 4th touchdown threshold. So I would be looking at, Monty and DJ Moore to get up to, man, if I'm looking at a list, like maybe it's a boom bust guy, like, gosh, I even have a hard time saying this, like, maybe a Gabe Davis who could at least maybe get you a game or 2 that would blow up. I
Gabe Davis for who?
For like a Monty and a DJ Moore or Monty.
Yeah, I can see Monty for Gabe Davis, depending on if this is, and maybe I missed it, if this is redraft or dynasty.
Yeah, I didn't see that in here. Is this season long or is this a dynasty league?
And see, it's funny because he has Amari Cooper as one of his wide receivers, which was a wide receiver. If this was this is a redraft league, that was one of the guys I was going to mention.
Season long. Okay, that helps.
Okay,
that helps. So yeah, you're looking to make a pretty big step up on productivity for the rest of the season. Right now Watson is hot. I want to keep him. I want him as a flex. I like Amari Cooper, and if I can make Amari Cooper my wide receiver 2 and Christian Watson is my flex, I'm thrilled in this format. And if I get to start Dalvin, I don't know who else you have at running back, but if you're willing to move Dalvin and or Monty, I'm assuming that you're pretty good at the RB1 position. So would you do Amon-Ra and Christian Watson? Oh, you have Amon-Ra? Oh, no, I'm sorry, that's different. I saw that pop up. So I think Super Squash, you got to get into like a top 12 tier. If you can take DJ Moore and in Montgomery and turn them, especially in a PPR league. Now, I know DJ Moore can catch a lot of passes, but you take the non-PPR running back in Monty and add him to DJ Moore and see if you can get yourself up to, gosh.
So you want the top 12? I got the top 12 here in PPR.
Go for it.
T. Higgins?
I would do that in a heartbeat. I don't know if you can get it done.
That's what I'm saying. Do you think you can get it done? I would do it in a heartbeat too, but I saw T. Higgins at 12 and I was like, yeah, I don't know if and that's 12.
Okay.
Let's move up down. One.
Yep.
Amon-Ra?
I would go to Amon-Ra.
Do you think it can get done though?
I think you could. I think there's enough question marks around the Lions, Jared Goff, etc. So I would certainly try. Keep going.
Here's one I was thinking, Monty, straight up, and let me know what you think. Devonta Smith.
Yeah, I mean, I like that. I like that for the upside. I love that, having a piece of that offense.
My thing is that offense is clicking, and he's a guy that does well in the number 2 spot. But if anything ever happens to AJ Brown, he gets nicked up. I mean, I think we saw kind of last year and that was before kind of the Jalen Hurts glow up that
Mhm.
he can be just fine throwing the ball to Devonta Smith. So that's a guy. If you're not looking to package, if you're looking just to kind of do a 1-for-1, um, Monty for Devonta Smith is somebody that probably Devonta Smith is a wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4 on that team, most likely. So
Yeah, I think this is, and maybe you have to move up to Dalvin. Maybe you have to send Dalvin and either Amari Cooper or DJ Moore to get to a difference maker wide receiver.
yeah,
Because again, it looks like not a lot of starters, so you want to be top heavy. So bundle that 2-for-1 or 3-for-1 for another team that maybe isn't quite as sharp in that space, and see if you can land, a top 12 or 15 wide receiver like a T Higgins, and get to Amon Ra. You get a couple of those guys in there. I would make that move, especially if you're pushing for the playoffs here. Consolidate your talent. You got to feel great about everybody that you're starting over the next few weeks, and then you can fill the bench with some backups just in case something tragic happens. So hopefully that helps, Super Squash. Let us know. Let us know on Twitter what ends up happening if you get something done.
for sure. And on Twitter at Fantasy Timeline. Just as a repeat, I'm at Real Fantasy TL. Drew is at DR_PRA. Yeah, let us know. That'll be fun. This next one here from Steve Dennis, our boy. Now I'm curious where everyone is at. Prefer Christian Kirk over Christian Watson? The battle of the Christians. Rest of the season. There's a lot of questions behind the question, right? Like, who's the quarterback for the Packers, right? I mean, it looks like it's going to be Jordan Love this week. How long does that last? Because I'm not going to lie, I have been someone who has not said good things about Jordan Love in the past, but he looked good at the end of that game.
Yeah.
Had
1 touchdown.
We'll see what happens when he is the starter. We'll see how the other wide receivers acclimate to him. But, that's the first question is, it's Jordan Love for a week and how much longer? We don't know. Listen, I feel like Zay Jones has kind of been glowing up too. He's kind of been doing his thing. Trevor Lawrence likes him, and it doesn't mean he doesn't like Christian Kirk, but I feel like Zay Jones has been getting a little bit more involved. So, I mean, assuming that Aaron Rodgers only misses a week, I'd probably go Christian Watson because they seem to have found their connection finally. But if it's Jordan Love for the rest of the season because Aaron Rodgers is hurt and they're not going to make the playoffs, I mean, I think they technically have like a 3% chance of making the playoffs, but that's probably not going to happen. So in that case, I would go with Christian Kirk. What do you think, Drew?
Oh man, this is interesting. I think it's a safe play versus an upside play. I don't know that Christian Kirk is going to have maybe the ceiling that Christian Watson does, especially like you said, if Aaron Rodgers is back in a game or two. So depending on which part of your roster you're trying to fill out here, what you have for other players, if you're looking for like that boom bust, and that's Watson. If you're looking for somebody who should have a pretty solid floor and be heavily involved, and I mean we were just talking about how well Trevor Lawrence moved in that last drive, and again, speaking of credit where it's due, the difference in coaches this year and the production and how comfortable Trevor Lawrence looks. And then even for the team, right, you have his teammates now echoing some of that sentiment and really kind of revealing what the difference is. So I would probably, for me, for the rest of the season, I probably take Kirk over Watson right now. I like the safety net there. I think you have other areas that you could be boom bust in. So I'd probably give the slight edge to Christian Kirk. But like you said, if we find out that Rodgers is only missing 1 week, I do have questions about how hard he's going to play the rest of the season, especially once they get eliminated. So I think there's just some more consistency there at Kirk, which I'll take the risk there, I think.
And just because we were talking about Trevor Lawrence, just a update on one of the bets we got going on. Total points, Trevor Lawrence ahead of Tua. Now I will say, because I'm, as much as I love tooting my own horn, points per game, Tua's up by about 2.5 points. But I mean, I think it should be a little bit more considering Tyreek Hill is there and Jalen Waddle's there, and
it's a lot of season left, Josh. A lot of season left.
Is there though? We're in the home stretch, my man. We're in the home stretch. Hey, and if Miami runs away with this division, they're going to be sitting guys.
Nobody's running away with the AFC East, Josh.
Here you go. This is a good one from Antonio Lopez. Would you do Amon-Ra and Christian Watson for Justin Jefferson? Yes. That I don't care if this is redraft or dynasty or keeper or some league I've never heard of. Justin Jefferson is that dude. He had the one bad week against Dallas, and then we saw what happened. So do that. This is from Actison. I hope I said that right. Hey, guys, redraft. Half point PPR. Should I start Watson or Deebo? Not a must win, but one win away from securing a first-round bye.
That's a must win.
Before we go to that, this is a must win because those first-round buys are important, man. That's one less game to get you into the money. So, it's a must win. He could start Deebo or Watson in the flex, but as usual is Jamal Williams. That's my usual too, man. That's my usual too.
I'll be honest. I would put Deebo and Watson together and sit Jamal Williams.
Oh no, I'm going Deebo and Jamal Williams and sitting Christian Watson. Do you have? I
guess for this week, perhaps, yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
I was going to say you have that much belief in Jordan Love. You're a good man. You're a better man than me, but I don't have that level of faith in Jordan Love. Now I hope he does well. I really do want him to do well because he's been put in one of the most unenviable positions in the NFL. The Packers take you in the first round. I mean, it's not his fault. He didn't get to pick where he went. It was chosen for him. And then everyone's just like, well, you're not Aaron Rodgers. And he's like, well, obviously, like I played at Utah State. Like I was kind of a developmental guy. And now I'm supposed to be as good as, one of the 10 or 15 best quarterbacks of all time. Like, it's a big ask.
It'll be interesting to see. I don't think that the gap between or the risk between Watson and Jamal Williams is that big. So this is probably one that I would tinker with up until kickoff and probably pick the wrong one personally. But yeah, I would say go with your gut on that. If Jamal Williams has been your guy, ride with that. Especially, I forget what their matchup looks like this week. If it's at all a plus matchup, then you have to go there. Packers, Bears. Yeah. So, keep an eye on things. You've got 3 good options, which is nice. So just don't overthink it. Get to a place, whatever your method is each week. I usually get to a place Saturday night where I've done my tinkering, I've done my research. So unless it's truly like a game time decision on Sunday, my commitment myself is to set it and let it go. So lives in Detroit. Okay. Do we get Bill's burner account here or something, or what are we working with? I get that, and Josh and I have talked about it. We love Jamal, whether it's from the Hard Knocks clips and just watching the guy play his heart out, and I mean, just a generally good human being. So I get that. But yeah, that's some good options either way, and just stay close to the news through the weekend. Good luck to you this week. Hopefully you secure that bye and you don't have to sweat it out for another week or two.
And Ackerson does say Packers are playing the bummy Bears, but San Francisco is playing Miami. That could turn into a shootout real quick. I mean, we've seen the Miami Dolphins offense put points on the board, and to be honest, last week wasn't so great, but hey, they were able to put points on the board against Arizona, so they got it in them.
Yeah, I don't think San Francisco is shutting Miami out this week.
No. I mean, I like their
not
defense.
with Tua at the helm.
You mean with Tyreek Hill doing his thing?
That'll be a show though. Like I would love to see Debo and Tyreek go, haymaker for haymaker, big play for big play. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, man. I mean that's a 4:00 game. So let's see what else is on at 4:00. The only other game at 4 that could pull you away is Chiefs Bengals. Jamar Chase is coming back. So obviously a lot of eyes are going to be on that. But 49ers Dolphins should be pretty fun too. So
Chargers Raiders for divisional could be interesting. Those are always fun.
Stop. Nobody wants to watch the Raiders. They want to watch Josh Jacobs, but they don't want to watch the Raiders. We've seen that.
Come on. You saw that catch this week?
Listen. I'm curious, and I'm assuming they have to because of money. But like, what reason is there for Josh McDaniels to be the coach of that team next year? Like, what has he proven to get a second year as the head coach of that team? I mean, they got maybe arguably the best receiver in football.
Yep.
And they're like a joke of a team. This is a team that made the playoffs last year. And I'll keep saying this till the cows come home. They almost beat the AFC representative in the Super Bowl in the first round. They were one bad Derek Carr pass away from winning that game. And then they get Devontae Adams. Let's go. This team is going to be in the playoffs. We thought the AFC West was going to be what the AFC and NFC East are actually doing. And I mean, all they changed was head coach. I mean, sure, there are some other players in and out, but like the big move was the head coach move and getting Devontae Adams, and they're laughable. Like, they are laughable. So went on the side tangent there, but I had to. Drew, did you make any good trades or get any good trades this week?
I didn't get a whole lot done. I have. Let me see where this went. I thought I had an offer in here, and I've been in a couple leagues looking at what can I get done still. Let's see. I know we're in a Superflex Army 2 with Bill.
Yes, we are.
I'm also in the regular Superflex Army with him, which is a 12-team PPR tight end premium here. And currently, the team that I am working with is there's 2 divisions, so we are 5-7. We were runners up last year to Bill. And kept most of our roster intact. In fact, traded up and figured out how to get Breece Hall on our team this year. A couple of other young guys as well, and we just have not been able to put it together. We had Hopkins sitting for the first few weeks, and then just had some tough matchups. So we're sitting in our division, actually the second highest scoring team out of our 6 teams with the most points against. So just some poor luck. Overall, the 1, 2, 3, like top 5 scoring teams. Honestly, I have to look and see. We might have a shot at the playoffs depending on how Bill put these rules together. So maybe I need to think this through. But right now in our inbox, we've got a trade here from a team that is the second in our division, playoff team, an 8-4 team. And they are looking to send us Justin Fields, DJ Chark, and Tennessee's one of their backup tight ends that I cannot pronounce their name, unfortunately, for our Joe Burrow. So Jalen Hurts is our other quarterback in addition to Geno Smith this year. So I co-manage this team, and I actually haven't had a chance to talk with my co-manager, but I think it's close for me. I like Joe Burrow a lot. We also have T. Higgins for what it's worth. Just a little context. We have a nice stack there. But as far as, I don't think we have any of the Philly receivers. We do not. Outside of Quez Watkins.
My man, Quez is a man.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm looking at the Bears. That's right, because we're looking at Fields. So we don't have any of the Bears receivers. We don't have Cole Kmet or Mooney or anybody like that. So I don't know. Where do you have? Let's just look at the quarterbacks. So how far apart is Justin Fields and Joe Burrow for you?
Personally, or do you want me to look up the points? And
personally, where do you have them loosely ranked right now based on, where Justin Fields has kind of come on lately? And I mean, we kind of know what we're getting from Burrow.
I mean, honestly, I think it's close. I mean, look at what Justin Fields is doing with nothing. Darnell Mooney is fine, but I listened to a great podcast, The Draft Dudes, and it's just based on the draft. They do NFL stuff and everything, and it's not really fantasy. They do a fantasy thing here and there, but it's mostly about the real game of football. And they did an exercise where they said, okay, Darnell Mooney, he would be wide receiver what? And they went to a bunch of different teams. And except for 2 teams, he's at best the wide receiver 2. At best. And then we're talking about what, Cole Kmet? I think Cole Kmet is good. Chase Claypool? Bleh. I mean, he had a good game. Bless him. But come on. Chase Claypool has always been more hype than actual substance. If they can use, I mean, I think they're 8 right now. Let me go on Tankathon real quick and see. I think if the playoffs started today, they would be pick 8. Let's see. Oh no, they would be pick 2. Excuse me for my ignorance. So maybe not in the first round. It would be a little too high to go wide receiver there. But if they went, let's look at. Oh, and they gave up their second round pick for Chase Claypool. Oh, you guys are killing me. They have a late second though, because they made the trade with Baltimore. And I'm looking at the wide receivers that are kind of in this range, and no one that I'm jumping up and down for. There's one guy, but he would need to fall a little bit that I would be oh, that's a good. But there's no one there that you look at right now and go, oh man, if they get that guy, they're set. Now, maybe since they're at the 2 pick, they trade down to a team that wants Bryce Young or CJ Stroud, whoever doesn't get taken number 1. And can amass some picks and maybe, make it to the middle of the round. Let's see who would want to move up for quarterback. I'm looking. 14, the team we spoke about earlier, the Indianapolis Colts.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they want to move up. Maybe they're tired of BSing with, old quarterbacks that don't want to be on their team anymore, blah, blah, blah. And maybe you can move down there and you can get, maybe a Jordan Addison, maybe a Jackson Smith and Jigba, and then really give Fields something to play with. I don't know what free agency looks like either when it comes to wide receivers. So, but if they can get him one guy, just get him one guy that is a real player. Hell, do what Jacksonville did. Overpay somebody. I hate it. I made fun of it, but Christian Kirk has really helped Trevor Lawrence out. Like, you got to do that for your guy. Like, get him somebody so that Darnell Mooney can be a 2 and Chase Claypool can be a 3. And then all of a sudden you're like, okay, I like Darnell Mooney as a 2. All right, I like Chase Claypool as a 3. Like, you're not sitting here going, Darnell Mooney and Chase Claypool are your starting 2. You know what I'm saying? So, but yeah, sorry, I went real long-winded with that because I just got into some stuff that I like doing. But that's why I think they're close, because Joe Burrow is doing it with T. Higgins and Jamar Chase and Tyler Boyd and Joe Mixon. And Justin Fields is doing it with Darnell Mooney, Cole Kmet, David Montgomery, Khalil Herbert.
Yeah.
Joe Burrow has a slight advantage in that.
In this league, they are about 50 points apart. Fields has scored 225, and Burrow has scored about 272. And I just looked it up based on the bylaws. This team is 14 points away from having the number 6 seed for the playoffs.
I think I would turn the screws a little bit, to be honest. Because honestly, this trade is Fields for Burrow straight up.
Yeah.
DJ Chark, like him as a human being, but like, what is he in fantasy? He's a roster clogger. This guy, Okonkwo, that guy could be on another team next year. That guy could be a free agent next year.
Let me see. Let me read through some of the other assets that this team has here.
Yeah, I need something more than, what are we talking about? A third and a fourth if we convert Chark and Okonkwo into draft picks, maybe 2 fourths.
Yeah.
Come on.
So the only pick this team has is their 23 first. So
okay.
That's
probably too much, but okay.
Yep. They have another Detroit wide receiver right now in one Jameson Williams, who has not played a down of football all year.
That might be somebody I would try to.
I would do that. This person has all the. They have Amon-Ra St. Brown as well.
Oh, that works out even better.
So
I think.
Yeah. Do you think value wise, what's more value right now, Amon-Ra or the late 23 first?
I think it all depends on the person. For me personally, I think it's about even.
Right.
But there are people that love Amon-Ra St. Brown, have loved him, will always love him, will never give him up, never let him down.
So we're all, man, this heavy Detroit roster here. They've also got DeAndre Swift. I don't think we're getting a running back from this team because they've got Kenneth Walker, DeAndre Swift, and then you drop down to like David Montgomery. Which would you do? I don't know that I would want Fields and Montgomery.
So this is what I always. This is kind of how I look at it. Even if I think my team is underperforming, I treat my bad teams like rebuilds. Because my thing is like, all right, if next year I play to my potential, so let's say you have a top 6 team and they're playing kind of like a bottom 4 team.
Yep.
Next year you expect that to kind of even out and you be closer to top 6. But doesn't your team look a lot nicer with Fields and Jameson Williams and that upside as opposed to Fields and David Montgomery and whatever he still brings to the table?
I think so.
So I think that's the play. I think you go Justin Fields, give me Jameson Williams. It looks like he's not going to play again this week.
Yep.
That guy's trying to win, right? It looks like
Yep. Yeah.
He's trying to win, even though he may be like the 6th seed, but he's trying to win.
Yeah. I mean, he'll be based on the league settings right now. This team will be the number 3 seed overall. So they would. So what's funny is if we sneak into the 6th seed, we would play them week 1.
Perfect.
So, yeah, I do think, and quite frankly, you look at points per game. Our roster is currently outperforming his team by 12 points per game. So he's got some sweet matchups that he's riding on.
Yeah.
So
let him feel good. Let it be like, dude, look at me, dude. I may not even make the playoffs. Here, man. Just give me Jameson Williams. If it makes you feel good, you can give me that other crap. I'll cut it for you. But all I need is Fields and J-Mo. Let's like Russell Wilson would say, let's ride.
Don't go there.
Let's ride.
Don't go.
Listen, if you get that deal, you better say let's ride.
Nope.
That's a deal right there.
Nope.
Yeah. I this other stuff. I mean, it's just roster cloggers. I would sweep them away. Fields and J-Mo for Burrow.
Yeah. I think all the options here, like I would honestly, I would take the 23 first if he assumes it's going to be late. Because honestly, I think it might be a late mid, depending on how, based on how he's scoring right now. Yeah. If that's the if that ends up being the 108, the 107, okay. If I get Amon-Ra, he's only going to help me make the push and secure that playoff seed. And if it's Jameson Williams, I think Jameson Williams is the best of both worlds. Could be a contributor, could be a great upside piece. Because I'm with you this past year. I think Jameson Williams could be the best wide receiver in this class. I liked Garrett Wilson a lot though coming out as well. So I've got more Jameson Williams than I do Garrett Wilson, unfortunately. Probably like twice as much J-Mo based on where he fell in some of the drafts. I had some of those middling picks where Garrett Wilson was already gone by the 104, 105. Some crazy leagues he was gone at the 102. Don't know who would have done that. But but yeah, so I'll keep you updated, see where that goes. But that's probably the only major trade that I'm looking at here. I had a couple of other offers. I think we talked about them last week too. Like, those offers that I countered with last week all got rejected, which is fine. So I'll hang on to Jamal Williams and Kareem Hunt in a couple of those leagues. And again, I love that you pointed out last week that Hunt and Williams are like within 6 months of age of each other. So they're both teams that I think I could use either or both of those guys next year. So why not?
And on the way out, since we're at a hour 20 here, I want to give you your kudos. We co-own a team in the Junkies League.
We do.
And we had a debate. I want you to go in the Wayback Machine here. We had a debate, you and I.
Okay.
In the very first round, one of us wanted to take Russell Wilson. The other of us wanted to take Mark Andrews. Now, the person who wanted to take Sir Russell Wilson, Mr. Let's Ride himself, that was me. I said, hey man, this is a 14-team super flex league. The first like 10 picks for a quarterback. We were already. And I said, dude, if we don't get it now, when we gonna get it? He said, yeah, man, but this is, I believe it's 2 points PPR.
It's pretty heavy. I think it was at least 2 points.
For tight end. And he said, man, Mark Andrews is that dude. I was like, I agree with you. But who's our quarterback going to be? And I said, listen, I'm going to defer to you, Drew. We'll take Mark Andrews. I don't feel good in my soul, but this is part of co-owning a team. Sometimes you gotta make compromises. You were 100% right. Every one of my leagues, Russell Wilson is on trade bait. I'll give you a third for him. Sure. I don't care. And then everyone's like, but he's Russell Wilson. And I'm like, yeah, that dude almost got punched out by a defensive lineman this week. Don't know if you saw that. I would have been. Russell Wilson stood there all straight.
That was some restraint from that lineman.
I would crap myself if that big dude had come yelling in my face. And I'm a big guy, and I still would have been like, I'm sorry, sir. I did not mean to offend you. Please do not inflict violence on my body. And then, Russ spun it after the game, and he was like, oh, he was just telling us that, we gotta step up. And I agree with him, I'm like,
I bet you do.
That dude did not say y'all need to step up. He said some stuff that you couldn't put on TV. He probably made disparaging remarks about your mother and your wife. Because that defense is like one of the best defenses in the league. They're giving up like 17 points a game.
That's ridiculous.
And they can't beat anybody. They can't. Like if that offense averaged 20 points a game, they would be like in playoff contention.
Oh, they'd be 9-2.
Like how crazy is that? Like 20 points a game. Since Dak came back in week 7, Dallas has averaged 33.8 points a game. And they're number 1 in the league since Dak came back in points per game. And we're saying 30. Whoa. Not 30, not 25. We're saying 20 points a game. I mean, and Russ can't cook up 20 points a game.
It's crazy.
So we
got one more here. I appreciate that. We got one more on the way out.
Oh,
last one of the night.
Let's get it.
So Blurpy is asking, should I trade Olave for Mike Evans? It's redraft PPR.
Hold, please. I spoke bad about Olave last week. And I mean, he still went 5 for 62 in that game, though.
He did.
They got shut out, and he still went 5 for 62. I guess my thing with Mike Evans is like Mike Evans is always gonna like give you like fine games, but he also has the ability to like really kind of sink you.
Yeah,
like he hasn't had 55 or more yards in a game since October 27th. a full calendar month.
Yeah.
He has not had a touchdown since October 2nd. That's almost 2 months for the people with calendars or the people without calendars.
I mean, in 11 games that Chris Olave has played this year, how many single-digit games do you think he has?
I mean, I'm looking at his stats right now. So, like, what is this? More 2?
Week 1, 8.1 points in a typical PPR league. And then week 10 at Pittsburgh, 7.
Yeah.
So he has got, in PPR right now, he is outscoring Mike Evans. His points per game is just a tad above. He's above 14 points, and Mike Evans is just a shade below 14 points per game. I understand that the quarterback situation in New Orleans is not ideal, but Andy Dalton is finding him, getting him the ball. Olave is doing the rest. So for me, this is a no. I would keep Olave, or I would shoot higher. I'd try to package something a little bit with him to try to get higher. Yeah, Evans, I don't know. I feel like each week we're just waiting to hope that he has that adds a little bit more context here. He's got Kamara as well. I'm sorry to hear that after this week. But yeah, I think Evans, you're just hoping for that touchdown to make sure that he's worth the start. Otherwise, like you said, he could score you 4 points. He could go 2 for 20.
Yeah, and here's what really worries me is Mike Evans has 12 receptions in the last 3 weeks. Chris Godwin had 12 receptions last week.
Mm-hmm.
And had 13 combined receptions the 2 weeks before that.
Yeah.
I feel like Chris Godwin is finally right.
Yep.
I mean, he came back and played week 1, and I think he rushed it back. He was hurt for a couple of weeks, and I think he's just been kind of working his way back in. And I
think Brady looks for Evans in the red zone, and I get that connection.
Yeah.
But did Christian Wirfs get hurt seriously this past week, or is he going to be? Either way, I don't know that Brady's getting the time that he needs to make Evans, to let Evans take advantage of his size. So I still lean. I would keep Chris Olave for the rest of the season, unless you can get trade up into the next tier. So you got Amon-Ra, Hopkins, who's been performing. So there's part of me also says if it's working, it ain't broke, don't fix it. So I'd look at that running back situation if you can. If you're not a fan of Kamara, or you want to try to diversify some things. I know it'd be a tough week to trade Kamara, but yeah. Or maybe you sell high on D-Hop on Hopkins, package him and Kamara. I don't know, but I'm keeping Olave.
Yeah, I'm keeping Olave too. I mean, Alvin Kamara has been a running back too. Olave has been a wide receiver too. So they've been able to coexist. They haven't really cannibalized each other. And if you get Olave and Pacheco for Godwin, I like that.
Yep.
And just as a fun stat of the day, so to speak, Chris Godwin has not had, in games that he's played, he was injured for a couple of weeks, so I want to put that little caveat in there. He has not had less than 6 receptions since week 1.
Yeah. Get to Godwin.
Yeah.
In this part here, he says everybody in my league is underrating the hell out of Olave. Then That's on them.
Here's the thing. If you can't start him, it's better him on your bench than him on another team killing you in the playoffs. And that's how I have no problem with having a bunch of really good players on my bench because I know they're not in anyone else's starting lineups going up against me.
Yeah.
And
I think the squad he's got here with Olave, Amon-Ra, Hopkins, Delvin Cook, and Henry. I mean, that's such a solid core. So, yeah, if you can upgrade to Godwin, that's the one. Let all the rest slide.
Yup, exactly. And here's my thing. To put another maybe bow on the Chris Olave present. Here's his upcoming schedule. Bucks, Falcons, Browns, Eagles. Besides the Eagles, are you really afraid of any of those defenses? I'm not. Not one. And San Francisco is a really good defense, and he still put up, what did I say, 62 yards? 5 for 62. That was against a really good defense. None of those defenses that I just mentioned past the Eagles are even in that hemisphere. And Blurpy says I can't start Olave. That's fine. I'd rather have him on my bench and not have Mike Evans on my bench. Because listen, you can't start him now. But listen, guys can go down at any time. We don't want them to. I mean, I'm not out here saying they will. But if all of a sudden D-Hop gets hurt, slide Chris Olave in. I would rather be able to say, oh man, D-Hop got hurt. This really sucks. But at least I got Chris Olave, as opposed to saying D-Hop got hurt. Oh, now I got Mike Evans. Like, I don't have the same pep in my step making that move. So that's kind of where I'm at. Now, obviously, Drew's 100% right. If you can get that Godwin deal done, let's go. Get that Godwin deal done. And then you're really cooking. But if no one is going to give you appropriate value for Olave, I would rather have the better player in that position. Since you're saying Olave or Mike Evans isn't going to start for you, all right, cool. Give me the better bench guy. And I think the better bench guy is Olave, because it's like the real NFL. You have an injury, all right, who's the next man up? You're hoping that dude is good too, and he's not a scrub. Because we've seen a lot of teams get beat up by injury because they got scrubs on their bench instead of guys that can go. So
this is also for this redraft league. If this is a group of people you play with each year, this is a long play for me as well. Because if for me, my conviction is that Olave is the better receiver, and I think he will be the better receiver next year, and beyond when Mike Evans is here. And this is one of those things where you get to point back to this year where you stuck to your guns here if you truly like Olave better. And next year, when a trade comes up, and maybe you have a rookie or an underperformer, and you're starting to talk about the value that's really there, you've got some more credibility for that. So if this is just like a rando league or whatever, then do whatever you feel like. But if this is a group that you see year in and year out, or the majority of them will be back next year, this is one of those I get to point back to this and keep a receipt.
So I thought we were going to be done.
Oh my God.
But Blurpy, I got to get on a soapbox, and I promise
I'm going to mute myself
for 2 minutes. Limit myself to 2 minutes. So Blurpy says here, I traded Olave and Pacheco for Debo, and it got vetoed because the guy with Debo is 1-11 and has nothing to play for. LOL. And the LOL is 100% correct. Listen, I hate voting on trades because guess what? Oh, he's got nothing to play for. Why would you make this trade? You can make this trade tomorrow. Devo could get hurt in practice, and Olave ends up being the better player, and it's a bad deal for you. Like, I'm going to give you an example. This happened to me many, many, many years ago in a redraft league. I had Greg Olson, now commentator Greg Olson, and I was making my way towards the playoffs, and my brother was in a league with me, and he was not. He was a very bad team, and I traded Greg Olson and a receiver. I don't even remember who the receiver was. It wasn't like a great receiver, but it wasn't somebody who was terrible. For Rob Gronkowski, New England Patriots Rob Gronkowski, just doing it. And everyone in the league got mad. They got pissed off. Oh, these guys are brothers, and this is collusion, and blah, blah, blah. So I make it to the playoffs. I don't think I won the league that year, but I could be wrong. This was a long time ago. But Greg Olson was a higher scoring player throughout the playoffs than Rob Gronkowski was. And I think it was like by 3 points a game. Like, everyone complained about it. And I even at the end of the playoffs said, hey, you guys still mad about that trade? And everyone's like, what are you talking about? Blah, blah, blah. And I put the points per game during the playoffs I think we had like a group text going on because it was like a friends and family league. And everybody was quiet after that because even though they thought I ripped off my brother to get Rob Gronkowski, Greg Olson actually ended up being the better player. I would have been more successful if I had kept Greg Olson. But that's what trades are. You're trying to make your team better, but you can never guarantee anything. Blurpy, it's not an unfair trade. I hate that they're still voting in leagues. Like, you're playing with adults in most cases. Like, that, you know what? That team's got nothing to play for. They already put their money into the hat. So, like, their money is making up 1/12 of the pot, whether they're 1-11 or 11-1. And, you know, I hate vetoes. I'm sorry. I hate vetoes. I hate voting on trades because everyone is voting for themselves. Well, that trade, oh man, that guy's in 6th place, but that trade could make him, maybe win this whole thing. I'm voting against it.
Yeah. This is one of those keep a receipt moments. I am wondering. So whenever you go back to whatever week that was, if that was 2 weeks ago, keep track of this. I would add up those scores for the rest of the season between Deebo versus Olave and Pacheco.
Yep.
And I think there is a really good chance that the difference in those scores is total scores at the end of the year is within 5% of each other from the week that you offered that trade on. So I don't know the whole makeup of the league, and obviously you've chosen this league for a reason. So I don't want to say anything out of line here. But yeah, that is one of those things that is really tough. I'm still in a league. I'm in a redraft league, my oldest league, where that is still like commissioner has the opportunity to say no to a trade. I've never seen him do it, which is why I'm still there. But the moment I see that happen, that will be a tough thing to get past. So, but yeah, keep throwing the trades out there, stay active. I mean, that's what makes this fun. I hope you get something better. Otherwise, yeah, I think our advice is pretty aligned that you keep Chris Olave based on what we've seen from him, unless you get a meaningful upgrade to somebody like Chris Godwin that's going to give you an extra 3, 4, 5 points a game on average.
And Blurpy, if I can make one more suggestion to you, what you do is after this podcast post, you put it in your league chat. You go, hey, I asked 2 experts in the game what they thought about this. And just let them listen. Let them hear what we got to say. They don't got to listen to the whole thing if they don't want to. You could tell them, when did we start this? About 20 minutes ago, maybe?
Yeah, 10, 12 minutes, yeah.
Yeah.
Get an hour and a half in.
Yeah, tell them get an hour and a half in and just listen. We're experts. Drew wins leagues all the time. I'm in leagues with him, so I know he's a winner. Me, I do most of my damage in Scott Fishbowl every year. That's where my biggest claims to fame go. So, and if they don't know what Scott Fishbowl is, tell them to look it up. Biggest fantasy tournament in the world.
Also a doctor. Throw that in there.
Yeah. The DR isn't just for nothing. That's doctor _ PRA.
Oh, God.
So yeah, but we hate it, but what are you going to do? Like Drew said, you chose the league for a reason. My thing is, if it's like a random league, I won't be in it next year. I think it's kind of silly that a trade like that. I mean, I've seen bad trades come through, and a trade like that is not one of them. So on that note, thank you everybody in the chat. Really appreciate it. And we have a little bit of news. We want to throw this out here on our way out for the people watching, people in the chat, and the people who are going to listen to us later on in podcast form. We are going to do this show through the end of the season. Probably have a wrap-up show after the regular season ends to talk about our bets and maybe have some cool guests on and everything, have a good time. And then we're going to take a couple months off. Drew and I have been working on this show pretty hard for the last few years, and I think we both need a little bit of a break. So we don't have an exact date on when we're going to come back or what the show is going to look like, but we're going to take a break. Like we said earlier, follow us at Fantasy Timeline. You can also follow us at our handles, which are below at DR_PRA and at Real Fantasy TL to see what's going on. We'll keep you guys updated with all of that stuff. But yeah, we're gonna take a couple months off after the season's over and just kind of rest, relax, get ourselves in check, and we'll be posting our updates on Twitter. So thank you to everybody in the chat again. You guys made it so much fun. A lot of great questions. Got us thinking. We love doing it. And remember, if you're not subscribed, subscribe to the DAP Network.
Yep.
So many great shows, not just us. The junkies are on here. Sometimes Russ and Rocky will put an episode of Trade Addicts on here. So you'll get, hit subscribe, hit the bell so you know when everybody's going live. And then leave a review. Hit that thumbs up too, please. All that stuff helps. We love it. And then for our podcast people, thank you very much. An hour and almost 45 minutes. You could be doing anything else, but you decided to chill with us. Just remember, if you got referred by a friend, hopefully we get 11 new subscribes from Blurpy's League, because they need us to guide them through the tragedies of voting on trades. Just kidding. All you guys are awesome. But hit subscribe. If you can, rate and review on your podcast directory. We really appreciate that too. And Drew, on that note, we are out of here.
Late.